hey, if you're a US citizen and you want to protect your retirement and you haven't got our free ebook yet, then you're really missing out. So click on the link in the description and find out how you can secure your retirement and your future today.
Welcome back, Adam and James. Great to see you both. How are you?
Hey up, Charlie. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Good. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. It's an exciting time because what we've been talking about for years, and people have been. So most of our audience are awake. I have a little saying, AYAY, AA. Are you awake yet?
Mm.
And when I was in Texas the other day, there was a lovely couple who'd had the T-shirt done in AA. Are you awake yet? What we're trying to do is wake people up to the truth. And the one thing with the truth is it makes sense. And this is what we're trying to do. These aren't financial lessons. These aren't financial advice. This is just trying to put out the truth, which is being hidden from us. That's all.
Yeah.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
Today, we just want to give everyone, I guess, a tool and a bit of a roadmap that's really worked for us. We only talk about stuff that's worked for us and that we actually do. We don't talk about things we don't do because we have no authority over those things. But this is something that me and James independently, it's from a book that we read, and it gave us a really clear path. And we want to give our interpretation of that and how we used it. So
it's a start point, wasn't it? It was what it's. You know, I spoke to a lot of people about it, and that's where they started too.
Yeah.
So it has made a real big difference. But yeah, as Charlie said, we're not giving you advice. We never will. We don't believe in it. It's not going to happen. But we will share information with you and knowledge, and we'll always encourage you and try and empower you to think for yourself and be in a better place.
Yeah,
that's how we did it. That's what worked for us. So it'll work for you if you take that first step. You know.
Yeah. And that's what we did. We wanted, the whole point of this is we wanted to be in a better place financially. We wanted to be financially independent of the system, because we knew, as most people realize at some point, that the system's not going to look after you. It's not designed to look after you. It's there to pacify you and to keep you in that hamster wheel. And but not to put you in the place that you want to be for you and your family. So the book that we read that many people will have read is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by a guy called Robert Kiyosaki. Amazing book, puts things in a really, really simple way. And we just want to give again our version and our takeaways from it, because everyone's journey looks different, but there's some overarching principles that really work. And I'd encourage anyone to go and get the book, or you can listen to it on YouTube, audio, it's in most languages now.
Audio's best when you're driving or whatever. You just listen to it, can't you?
Yeah, audio is really good. So the start for us is we knew we want to be in a better place financially. We wanted to be financially independent, but we didn't really know how to get there and what it required. And we didn't really understand where we currently were. Because to go on the journey, you've got to understand two things: one, where you are, and two, where you want to go. And we didn't understand either of those. So what the book essentially lays out is 4 different quadrants, and this is 4 different ways, I guess, to generate wealth, money in different ways. The first way, really practical, is to be employed, an employee. And there's, for all of these quadrants, there's pros and cons. There's kind of for and against, and challenges and benefits. Being employed, I would say most people are employed because, or they have some employment in their life. That's the way the school system is set up. It's an industrial school system. You when the bell rings, you do as you're told. You stand by your desk. You don't talk to your neighbor. And it's preparing you for an industrial job, to be a worker, an employee. The benefits of that are that you don't have to manage the whole business. You can come, turn up, do your bit, leave the work, the employment at your place of work. You don't have to take it home with you. But it is time for money. If you want to make more money, you have to give more time. And as we all know, time is the most precious commodity because you can't get it back. You can only spend it, you can never get it back. So being employed has its role. And it's a good place to, I guess, to start off, learn about the world, but know its limitations. And that's the key with all of these quadrants. It's about picking the right tool for the job and knowing the limitations and the benefits and using them to get the most out of each one. What some people do once they've been employed is they might say, I can actually do this better on my own. Or they might be doing something like a trade, and they would be self-employed. So self-employed has some similarities to being employed, but some differences as well. When you're self-employed, let's say you're an electrician, you have to do the job, but do the work, but also find the work as well. So you're now responsible for the whole thing rather than just your bit. And often when you leave your current place of work, let's say you've been working on a house, and you come away from that and you go to your own home to finish for the day, you're kind of always at work. Maybe you can have some times to switch off, but you're responsible, let's say, at all times. Again, it's time for money, but you might be able to make more money for your time spent. So it has an advantage there. But again, you're responsible. If you don't do the work doesn't get done. This left-hand side is time for money in whichever way you look at it. That's all it is. If you stop, at some point, the money will stop. If you do more, you will get more. So that's one side that I think most people will be familiar with. Look, people have got to earn an income, they've got to pay bills, and these two are definitely a starting point. The other side, the right-hand side, has two quadrants, and the first one is being a business owner. Now, being a business owner would be owning something like, for example, a McDonald's franchise. Everyone knows kind of McDonald's. You buy the system, everything's been laid out. If you go to a McDonald's anywhere in the country, they're all essentially the same because they have a business system that you buy into. And the person who owns that franchise, that location, isn't the one that's working in it. They're not on the till, they're not making the food, but they own the business system. Now, on this side, this is not time for money. It's in the same way that employment or self-employed is. It might require some time, but the amount of time you put into it is not proportional to the amount of money you get. For example, if you put less time in, it doesn't mean to say you will get less money, because the system is generating the income itself. Now that's really good, and I think a lot of people that may be very appealing to them, that they can get money without it being dependent on their time. The downside or barriers to a business owner, for this example, is that it requires a big capital outlay up front, and you might not make money straight away. So you might not make income straight away. And for a lot of people, they need to live month to month. You know, they need to pay the bills each month. And there's also a lot of moving parts being a business owner. So you need to have some skill. You can definitely learn that skill, but it requires some skill, some training.
There's a very interesting point here. There's many of you who filled out an application form for finance in your life, and you see the boxes, are you self-employed or an owner? You probably didn't realize there was a difference.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. I would have said, before I read this and knew the distinctions, I would have definitely said self-employed and business owners were the same thing.
Same thing, correct.
But the distinction here is that a business owner owns a system, which probably has other people working in the business.
They don't necessarily have to be there, do they?
No.
They can be at home spending time with the family. You got other people working for you,
and that's the whole point. But there's some barriers, but definitely some advantages as well. The next part of the right-hand side is to be an investor. And an investor is where you simply allocate capital. You're moving money into something, and then that money is having babies. It's creating more money. So on the left-hand side, you are trading time for money. And on the right-hand side, it's not time for money. It's more kind of money making money, or the system making money. So we've put one is time for money, and in our absolute genius creativity, the other side is not time for money.
Yeah.
And Yeah, the whole point of this is not that one is better than the other. It's not that you should, if you're in one place, you shouldn't be there, or you should move across or anything like that. It's about, if you want to have financial independence, you have to play the game on the right-hand side. You have to. Being employed and self-employed and saving money, you generate it with your time and then you save it, very, very, very rarely leads to financial independence.
If you
Very
just rely
rarely.
on that solely, yeah.
If that's all you're doing, then financial independence is going to be very difficult to achieve. You have to play the game on the right-hand side to some degree. And it might be the case that you are in several of these quadrants. I know, James, there was a period when you were in like 3 of these quadrants, right?
Yeah, well, I started off in the army, didn't I? Employed. That's all I ever knew. And then I realised, at some point, that my pension wasn't going to look after me. It wasn't going to set me up. It wasn't enough. And I had lots of, I'm tied up by strings and what you can and can't do and everything else. So I started looking at other things, you know. So I started doing door work, actually, security work at nightclubs when I was in the army. And I earned, I basically was then self-employed too. I was employed and self-employed. But with that money that I earned, that extra money that I earned, it wasn't good in the first place, obviously, because I was swapping more time for money. I was absolutely killing myself. But with that money, I then started investing it. That was my first step over to the right-hand side of the quadrant. I didn't know it back then. I didn't understand this back then. But that's what I did. I started buying properties with that
Sorry,
money.
James, just to pause there.
Sorry.
The temptation when you then go and earn more money is to spend more money, right?
Yeah. And it was my temptation, but I just knew that my army pension wasn't going to look after me, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing at the time either. You know, I wanted out, so I was thinking, I've got to do something else. I've just got to. So that motivated me to do something different and to do something like this, you know. So yeah, I went self-employed and then started putting that money into buying property and renting them properties out, without knowing anything about, you know, the quadrants. But that money then, what I made from investing in property, then bought my time back. It did buy my time back, so I didn't have to do any more door work or security work. And then I started setting up my own business. So I'm literally just on the right-hand side now, and so is Adam. You know, we're class has been on the right-hand side now, really. So, but what Adam said earlier is, I mean, that's just my personal journey. But what Adam said earlier is, you know, even if you're employed or self-employed or even retired, when you're watching this, because people are at different stages of life, aren't they? You know, if you just do something on the right-hand side, then you're going to be better off. You're more likely to be financially independent on, you know, if you've got your finger in the water, or you're doing some investing, or you're a business owner or whatever. You're more likely to be financially independent and better off financially if you do something on the right-hand side. But it's just understanding this changed our world, Adam, didn't it? It was a big light bulb moment, wasn't it? Understanding these quadrants.
Yeah, and understanding what they can do for us, which ones we're in, and if we want to have financial independence, then we've got to educate ourselves on the right-hand side. Like I said, very, very rare that you can save your way to financial independence. And why would you want to? Why would you want to just trade time for money when you can trade time for money and then get that money that you've worked so hard for to then work hard for you?
And I know people that are self-employed and they've got nothing set up, nothing. They're just working. And one day they won't be able to work anymore. And then they've done nothing outside of that. That's it. That is it. You know, and they're self-employed. I know several people in that position. They're self-employed at builders and plumbers and what have you. They're doing really well now, but they're not putting the money anywhere. They're not investing it anywhere to set themselves up in the future. And you can't just keep working forever and ever and ever, can you?
This is what the government want, isn't it, James? They want you to be a slave.
Yeah,
and then they want you to depend on them for the pension, which they'll just.
So then you're reliant on them. Yeah,
you're totally dependent on them.
Yeah,
and we're talking about financial independence.
Yeah.
I think
it isn't about being a millionaire. It isn't about being a millionaire or anything like that. It's about, you know, being in a nice position where you don't have to worry about money. you know?
Yeah. And that's a key point, James, when you said there will be a time where you either don't want to work or you can't work. And this is,
and you should have the option. You should have the option either.
yeah.
You should have the option to not have to work too. We believe
the difference, and this is we need to make this distinction of there's different types of investments as well. So being an investor, some people maybe through their employment they have a pension, they're contributing to a pension, but they're not. People don't really are aware of it. They don't really know what it's invested in. It's usually within the last 3 years of before they're due to retire that they even seriously look at it and look at what it's, you know, the projected performance and all this kind of stuff. We would say that you need to be a conscious investor, not an unconscious investor. You know, you kind of aware something's going on, but you don't really don't really know exactly what it is. We think it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take some investment in your own education first of all, but then you're going to be a conscious investor, and you're going to be able to pull the strings and be empowered and know whether you're on track or not, or like you're not going to have to fill forms in and speak to certain departments within your employment to get the figures from them. You're going to know yourself. And this is why, as James said about property, look, different types of investments. Property's a great investment, but again, there's some limitations and barriers to entry. You can't invest in a property at £100 a month. It takes a big capital outlay. You've got to find the right property. It can be really good when you've done that, but we've found that precious metals.
There's a lot of effort involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of effort involved. So I've been there and done that. I've been there and done that. So I can say that with, you know.
Precious
confidence.
metals seem to be good for the vast majority of people. You can purchase one big lump sum. You can purchase one big lump sum and then add to it monthly, or you can just start monthly. Like you have all those flexibilities, and the kind of knowledge required to get started is quite small. Most people understand gold and silver. It's metal. You know, they've got parents, grandparents, great grandparents that have had gold rings, and like it's just known within our kind of psyche that there's value to these things. So look, we just really encourage people. This has massively helped our journey to know where we are, know where we want to be, and give us some idea of a roadmap of how we can get there. And we encourage everyone just to consider this for themselves. Consider where you are on the journey. Consider where you want to be, and then use these quadrants for what they're good for, and also be aware of what they're not good for, and set your expectations accordingly.
Yeah, and no matter what age you are when you're watching this video, no matter what age you are, you can benefit from precious metals, from investing. Because if you're at a younger age, you can just build your own pot and build your own pension plan outside of the system in real physical metals, something that you can rely on in later life. If you're later in life right now, you know, if you're already retired, then you can protect what you've got. You know, because you might have all your assets in paper. Guess what? You can swap you can swap them where possible into physical assets to protect you. So, you know, it's no matter what age you are, you can benefit from precious metals.
Yeah.
No, anything I'm missing there, Adam?
No, I think those are the key words: building and protecting, and that's what you can do with investments.
Build it, protect it, and
maybe
just become independent.
Maybe for 5% of people, having a business system is something that ticks the box for you, and that's great. Like go and do it. We're not saying one's better than the other. We're just saying that investing, and particularly in precious metals, seems to be the most accessible for most people when they're busy. You know, they're doing their employment, self-employment. This is something that you can easily transition to and be active in that quadrant without it, you know, taking a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, it's a easier route to what's the thing you always say, Ivan? It's just an easier route, isn't it? It's an easier path to get started doing something, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know,
there's a lot of people who wake up and don't want to go to work. I can assure you that with Adam, James, and myself, we wake up every morning and are excited about what we do. We look forward to waking up and working.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from my own experience, and the guys will tell you the same, that when you start, first of all, working for yourself, having worked for somebody, it's a bit scary.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
But I tell you what, the moment you taste success, it's so motivational because you've done it for yourself.
Yeah.
Sitting there and being a robot. It's the first step is the most difficult.
So much freedom.
Yeah, it is the freedom. And the funny thing is a lot of people say, well, I want to work for myself so I can choose the hours I do. And I do far too many hours. And then when they work for themselves, they work twice the hours they did
I know
before.
what you're going to say. Yeah. You do more hours. Yeah.
Because you're enjoying it.
There was a conversation, it was kind of a joke, someone saying, oh yeah, 9 to 5. And they were saying, what? No, 95. And there's working 95 hours, not 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what you end up doing.
You do because you enjoy it. When you wake up in the morning and enjoy what you do, it changes your whole aspect on life. But there's too many people that have been dumbed down just to be robots, just to be
That's all they want, isn't it?
All it takes is a little bit of self-belief, only a little bit. And when you start, and some people have started whilst they've had a job. Being self-employed in
That's what I did. Yeah.
Exactly. Same as me. I started doing things at night and in the evening. And then
I did. Yeah.
And then I had enough money to come out of the system.
Employment just paid the bills. It just paid the bills to keep. I remember speaking to my colonel and saying, look, I don't want promoting. I know you're trying to get me promoted and do your bit and try and get me up the chain and help me. I just said, please leave me alone. I'm happy being a sergeant. As long as I can keep buying my houses and setting myself up for the future to be financially independent, I'm fine. Just leave me alone. This job allows me to do that. The next job, I would be promoted, but I wouldn't be allowed to do that. Yeah. So I had to sacrifice one for the other, but I knew the other, doing what I was doing outside of the army, was setting me up. The army wasn't setting me up. The pension wasn't going to do that.
No.
You know? Yeah. And the pension, even though the pension's there, there's too many strings attached. I don't want any strings. I want to be financially independent of that system completely. Yeah. And the only way of doing that was investing. Oh, well, I worked self-employed at first, like I said earlier. Self-employed, made some money, put it into investments that created passive income, not just working income. And that's what bought my time back. And that's why it all, so it's just getting people to think about that and just trying to get them to do something for themselves. And everyone could do something. Everyone could get started at least investing in metals, couldn't they? That's doing something, isn't it?
One thing we've missed about being a conscious investor, the US, people in the US have a massive opportunity where they can move their retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs into metals and become a conscious investor. So there may be still within that retirement pension vehicle. So you might not have all the freedoms with it, but you go from not really knowing what it's invested in, not really controlling it, to being a conscious investor. And if that's the only thing that you can do, then that puts you on the right-hand side of being an active, conscious investor and playing the game how you want to. So
and people outside the US can do something similar too, but it's not as easy for people outside of the US, is it?
US have got it easy in that regard.
Everyone else will find it a bit more difficult, but they can do something. They can do something in most cases.
Definitely.
They just need to head the right direction, don't they? And just get started doing your research and looking into it, and just get in touch because we'll help you where we can. We're not pension advisors or anything, are we? But we'll help you where we can.
I was just going to say that if you want to find out more, we'll put the link in down below, and you can contact Adam and James.
Sounds
good. Share some experiences with them and see if they can guide you into being independent.
Yeah, I'd love to.
It's worked for us. It's worked for our families. Why can't it work for you?
Exactly right. Thanks very much, guys.
No worries. Thanks, Charlie. Good to chat with you.
It's always good.
You too.
Always good.
Good guys.
See you soon.
See you later.
See you. Bye.